Welcome to What Did I Miss?, where today I will be reviewing the third episode of Star Trek Lower Decks and looking for Easter eggs and references to all universes, prime and otherwise. Before I get into it, hit that subscribe button if you love Star Trek, because for the next 20 weeks at least, I will be releasing weekly videos on Lower Decks as well as Discovery, and maybe even a DS9 retrospective if I can fit it in. This episode of Lower Decks, titled Temporal Edict, is based off a line of dialogue from an original series character and is one of the many callbacks in the episode. But did this episode give us all the show has got, or was it more like a hangover after shore leave? I will let you know what I put in my log after I add in some buffer time. This is What Did I Miss?
I heard that's more your specialty.
First and foremost, there will be spoilers from the episode, as well as all things Star Trek, so if you don't want to know any, I don't know why you clicked on this video, honestly. The main plot of the episode has the crew worked into a frenzy by Captain Freeman after Boimler reveals to her that the crew takes part in a concept known as buffer time. This is the practice of overestimating the time it takes to complete a task, and then completing said task in well under the time suggested to appear extraordinary. This was a concept originated from Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott from the original series, who would give the captain repair estimates and multiply how long he thought it would actually take to fix something by a factor of 4 to maintain his status as a miracle worker. Scotty admitted as much to Geordi LaForge in the TNG Season 6 episode Relics, and Kirk admits in the movie The Search for Spock that he is aware of this as well. The one engineering officer we know that does not take part in this practice is B'Elanna Torres on Voyager, who explicitly states to Captain Janeway in a first season episode named State of Flux that when she says something will be fixed in 4 hours, it will be fixed in 4 hours. The name of the episode itself, Temporal Edict, may be a fancy way of saying buffer time, as temporal refers to an event in time and edict is an order, so in a sense a temporal edict is the time it takes for an order to be completed. The episode starts with Boimler playing a Scottish tune for the crew on a violin. The choice of song is no doubt a nod to Scotty, the most famous Scotsman on Star Trek, and one whom the premise of the episode is based on. And I don't know if I just see this because I'm into the Umbrella Academy right now, but Boimler is playing on a white violin, which makes me think of Vanya from the Umbrella Academy, who is also known as the White Violin. He also states that he wrote both songs about his mom. In real life, his mom is actress Meg Ryan, which I mentioned in my first episode about this season. At first, the Cerritos is en route to the planet Cardassia Prime. This is the home world of the Cardassian people and was featured heavily in the show Deep Space Nine. Last we saw it, the planet was in utter ruin after being attacked first by the Klingons, then the Federation, and then the Dominion over a span of just a few years. Cardassia first chose to align themselves with the Dominion during the war, and then changed their mind and joined the Federation, but not before all sides pretty much destroyed their planet and their military. In fact, before Commander Ransom is cut off during his log, he is explaining that the purpose of their mission is to broker peace between Cardassia and someone else. Mariner mentions Delta Shift. This is probably a reference to the third shift or night shift of the ship. This shift is a light one where most of the bridge officers are not on duty and not much happens, which seems odd since you would think in space that time wouldn't matter and anything could happen at any moment, but it is shown as an opportunity for lower ranking officers to fill the roles of higher ranking officers while they are not on duty. Data served as the captain of the bridge on the Enterprise during this shift since he didn't need to sleep, and Ensign Harry Kim served as captain of Voyager during their shift since he was ensign for 7 years. Captain Freeman and the Cerritos is sent to Gelrak 5 to endow the people with diplomatic trinkets. This is another common trope in Star Trek and almost always leads to a misunderstanding. Most recently, this was shown in the movie Star Trek Beyond when Kirk brings the wrong trinket to the planet they're visiting and the inhabitants attack him. Before meeting with the captain in the turbolift, Boimler is humming the very distinct theme song of Star Trek The Next Generation. The B-plot for the episode has Ensign Mariner accompanying a away team to Gelrak 5. I like that Boimler and Mariner were split up for the episode after basically being joined at the hip for the episodes before this. I also like that both characters' comfortability level was flipped from the last episode. In Envoys, we saw Mariner in her element and Boimler was unprepared. But in this episode, it seemed like Boimler was the one that got to shine by being able to complete his tasks while the rest of the crew couldn't, and Mariner has to take a backseat to her commanding officer instead of doing whatever she wants. Speaking of her commanding officer, Commander Ransom is often compared to now Captain Will Riker and hits a few famous Riker poses, one right before talking to the inhabitants of Gelrak 5. Jonathan Frakes is 6'3" and is known for throwing his legs up and over things. Ransom also mentions having witnessed sentient tar on an away mission. This may be a reference to the Next Generation episode Skin of Evil from the first season, in which Tasha Yar is killed by being matching this description during a random away mission. Ransom also mentions spores that make you hook up with your best friend's sister, as well as horned apes. These are references to 2 original series episodes, This Side of Paradise and A Private Little War. When the Garakians approach the Cerritos, we see the Trill Ensign Barnes, who Rutherford went out on a date with in the first episode, at the comm. Ransom enters a trial by combat. This has been shown many times in many films, but one of the most famous trial by combat scenes, no doubt, was from the original series of Star Trek in the first episode of the second season, named Amok Time, which was also the first time Leonard Nimoy displayed the Vulcan salute, which he himself originated. I actually really like this species, the Galrakians. I liked the Goliath Vindor and how he was supposed to be dumb but wasn't. I liked how they had to explain to people what their people crusher was. I like the guy that just says crystals like out of the blue. Scenes like this, I think, are where the show can really make its mark, because you couldn't do this on any other Star Trek show, and I think it really works here. When fighting Vindor, Ransom uses an infamous double fist punch maneuver that Kirk used repeatedly and would never work against anyone ever. Towards the end of the episode, we are shown the future in which the Boimler effect, or the rule named after Ensign Boimler to promote buffer time, is being taught to the children of the Federation. The hologram of Boimler is shown to be with one of the great birds of the galaxy. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek's nickname, was the Great Bird of the Galaxy. The last line of the episode is about how Chief Miles O'Brien is one of the most important members of Starfleet history. While this was a funny joke, there were a couple of things about this scene that struck me as odd. One, the hologram of him shows him behind a transporter control panel, which is what his role was on the Enterprise for 4 or 5 years, but one would think that he would be much more well known as the Chief Operations Officer on Deep Space Nine. Also, Miles O'Brien is a non-commissioned member of Starfleet, which basically means that he can serve as a mentor and lead teams of other officers, but he is below in rank to commissioned officers. This was brought up many times in his relationship with Julian Bashir on Deep Space Nine, as Dr. Bashir has rank over O'Brien, but is much more naive and has little experience when they first meet. I really like this episode, and after watching it again, I think it is my favorite of the 3 so far. The jokes seem to land better, and as I mentioned earlier, I like that Mariner and Boimler were split up. They are obvious polar opposites of each other, so it would be nice to see each character develop on their own for a while, and then come back to one another and display that evolution in their relationship. I even like that the title of the episode tricked me into thinking that it was going to be about time travel, and of course it had nothing to do with it. Reading reviews of the episode, I think that fans are finally starting to accept that this is a cartoon and should not be taken as seriously as other forms of Star Trek, especially what has been produced the past 20 years. My one consistent critique is that they are still leaning a lot on any connection they can find to the Enterprise, and sooner or later they are actually going to have to seek out strange new worlds when it comes to new plot devices. But you tell me, what did I miss? If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button and the bell so that you know when new videos come out, and share them with your friends. I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?